if President Donald Trump and congressional Republicans end up paying for their proposed $1.4 trillion tax cut by reducing spending or raising taxes later on, most Americans making less than $86,000 would be worse off, according to a new report by the Tax Policy Center, a nonpartisan think tank. Republicans have yet to say how they intend to pay for the tax cut. Originally, Treasury Secretary Stephen Mnuchin argued the tax cut would completely pay for itself because the economy would grow substantially faster, a claim that has not been backed up by independent research. Congress official scorekeepers estimate that the tax cut would add $1 trillion to the federal deficit, even after taking into account some additional economic growth. At some point, that will have to be paid for, and top Republican lawmakers, including House Speaker Paul Ryan, R. Wisconsin, have indicated they plan to take a hard look at welfare spending and other safety net programs for potential trimming. The Tax Policy Center warns in its Winners and Losers report released Friday that paying for the tax cut by reducing programs that help the poor and lower middle class would leave many Americans in the bottom 60% in a worse spot than they would have been without the GOP tax bill. Our central finding is that if either bill as written were to become law and plausible ways of financing the bill were taken into account, a significant majority of low and middle income households will eventually end up worse off than if the bill did not become law, the researchers wrote. In other words, they will lose more from the financing mechanisms than they will gain from the tax cuts themselves. The House and Senate have both passed tax bills, and a conference committee is beginning to meet to hammer out a final plan that both chambers can agree on and send to Trump's desk by Christmas. The House bill would cut taxes for 76% of Americans next year and raise taxes on just 7%, according to the Tax Policy Center. Some of President Donald Trump's wealthiest New York friends have launched a last-minute campaign to pressure him for changes to the GOP tax bill, telling the president personally that the current plan would drive up their taxes and hurt his home state. Trump on Saturday attended a fundraiser at. Some of President Donald Trump's wealthiest New York friends have launched a last-minute campaign to pressure him for changes to the GOP tax bill, telling the president personally that the current plan would drive up their taxes and hurt his home state. Trump on Saturday attended a fundraiser at. But those numbers look substantially different once the think tank factored in how to pay for the bill. If every household were required to pay the same amount to fund the tax cuts, roughly $1,200, in 2018, then only 27% of Americans would get a cut and 73% of Americans would essentially be getting a tax hike. The vast majority of the families that would be worse off would be in the low and middle class. Critics of the report say the Tax Policy Center is running hypothetical scenarios.